pyramid solutions appearing from large companies so that we can start to understand what that opportunity really looks like. And the trial and error in the real world is exciting too, because a lot of the innovation stays behind the curtain until it's revealed, but to actually get out there and see what works. So thank you very much. Our next presenter is going to be talking about unlocking the power of microalgae for a healthy and sustainable future. We have Jonathan Wolfson, who is the CEO of Solazyme. And if you are in the Bay Area, or maybe it's anywhere, but definitely in the Bay Area, Solazyme is one of those companies you hear about almost nonstop. So it's going to be exciting to welcome Jonathan.
Thank you for having me up here today, and I hope hearing about Solazyme in the Bay Area isn't ad nauseum, and that it'll be interesting today for those of you that don't know about the company. I'm Jonathan Wolfson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Solazyme. Solazyme is a 10-year-old company that's dedicated to producing renewable, sustainable oils. Oils with a much better sustainability footprint, but also oils that have better properties that lead to better products for consumers. And, you know, I was listening to a bunch of the talks earlier today, and there was one theme that came out again and again, and also in the last one, and that was errors, trial and error, or the expectation that something you were going to do is going to work. And over the last 10 years, and let me go further back, my co-founder and I started talking about Solazyme in the late 80s when we were in college. And that doesn't mean we really knew exactly what we wanted to do. There were some of the delusional rants of guys who wanted to change the world. And Solazyme developed over a series of years to focus on producing renewable, sustainable oils, initially only for low-carbon fuels. Now, I'll tell you that that focus has broadened substantially. We still care very much about renewable, sustainable, low-carbon fuels, but what we realized along the way was if you're making oils for fuels, well, you're making oils for lots of other things too. I only have 13 minutes and 14 seconds to talk up here left, so I'm not going to have an opportunity to tell you how many mistakes we made. But I can assure you the number is very large. And inside Solazyme, we have a pretty open policy where we expect mistakes. We expect errors, and we expect people to fail often, hopefully fast, but most importantly, to learn enough from those failures to hopefully step yourself further forward than you just set yourself back. Doesn't always work like that, but it's worked like that enough for me to get to focus today on where our technology is today, where our products are today, and how they're touching people, and how this is expanding over coming years. I'm going to start with a brief quiz, and that is, what do you think all of the products up on the screen have in common? Well, you might not know it, but all of these products contain algae. And more specifically, they contain algae oil. Algae oil is in a lot more products than you might think. In fact, the seafood counter at your local supermarket, everything in it ultimately contains algae oil. But on a consumer products basis, we started 10 years ago maybe with a couple hundred products, not Solazyme, but a couple hundred products on the shelf that contained algae oil, and that number today is in the thousands, but we still haven't really scratched the surface. We're really at the beginning here. I'm going to continue on with the quiz, and I'm going to say, look at this. We're talking about climate change. We're talking about deforestation. We're talking about dramatically increasing populations and the scourge of obesity. These are problems that we deal with every day. And what is one of the things that can help solve these problems? I bet you got it, right? It's algae. Algae is the original oil producer on the planet. It has evolved over billions of years to make oil. A lot of the petroleum that gets pumped out of the ground today is the fossilized remains of algae from tens or hundreds of millions of years ago. And equally importantly, all plants have actually evolved from algae. And the higher plants' ability to produce oils, all of that machinery actually still resides within algae. Algae can make a multitude of really important oils. What is Solazyme focused on? We're focused on using one of the world's smallest microbes to solve some of the world's biggest problems. How do we do that? It's a good question. And this, by the way, relates to lots of the mistakes we made along the way, and I'm not going to get into that detail here, but what we do today is fundamentally different from what we envisioned 20 years ago. What we do today is we take a wide variety of highly sustainable sources of biomass. Things like forest residue, switchgrass miscanthus, bonsucro sugarcane, and we feed these materials to microalgae. And what the algae do in basically large standard industrial fermentation tanks is they convert that biomass into very pure oils. In essence, they can actually take completely inedible sources of biomass and convert them into highly nutritious edible oils, among other things. So this is one of the two really important parts of our technology that we've developed, the ability at large scale and low cost to take biomass, many different types of biomass, and convert it into pure, sustainable, renewable oils. The second thing that we developed the ability to do is to tailor those oils, to tailor them so that they can produce better products. Better products for consumers, whether they're personal care products, whether they're nutrition, whether they're lower emitting fuels, better oils for better products. I think everybody knows that sustainability requires products that are at least as good. Well, we believe that it's a lot easier to convince people that sustainability is important in their products if you can actually give them a product that performs better. And that is a big part of what we do at Solazyme. There are three main sources of oil that touch our lives every day. Everybody knows about petroleum, but it's petroleum, plant oils, and animal fats. But you may not know all the different ways that they do touch our lives. You may know that they're in the mayonnaise that you might use sometimes, but you may not know that they're actually in the paint along the trim in the room that we're in right now. What Solazyme has developed is a new source of oil that can enhance and replace existing oils. We make triglyceride oils, which are the same oils produced by plant oils and animal fats. When many of you think about triglycerides, you think about your last blood test for cholesterol. But in fact, triglyceride oils are the fourth largest liquid by volume on the planet after petroleum, after water, petroleum, liquid natural gas. Then you have triglyceride oil, over 1 billion barrels produced and used in all kinds of products. And Solazyme has the ability to produce triglyceride oils that can replace petroleum products as well. But specifically, using the ability I mentioned earlier to make better oils, we can do things like optimize cooking oils so that they can replace trans fats and have much lower saturated fat, soaps that lather better and kill many more germs, transformer fluids. You may never think about that green box on the telephone pole outside your house, but I can tell you you would if it caught on fire. And we make fluids that are much less likely to catch on fire, and if that transformer leaks, they're highly biodegradable and easy to clean. These are just a few, but we've actually demonstrated that our oils work in many, many more applications. A lot of people are talking about innovation. I'll say again, innovation is also about failure, but it's about failure, learning, and retrying. What you're looking at is you're looking at the fragile equatorial band, and many of you think about that as you think about sustainability. Our technology, which allows us to use standard industrial fermentation, means that we can actually using sustainable feedstocks in different geographies. For instance, Iowa in the dead of winter producing a palm equivalent. That's an example, but we can do many more things. Why does that matter? Well, it matters for protecting that fragile equatorial band, but it also helps to drive transparency, traceability, very highly traceable, all of our oils, and supply chain integrity. People always want to know about the numbers. So today we're actually building a very large plant in Brazil with our partner Bunge at the Moema mill. It's a Bon Sucro certified mill, which means it has the highest social, labor, but also sustainability practices. It is a net neutral facility from an energy perspective, and using that facility, we have a dramatically lower carbon footprint, even than palm kernel oil, high oleic sun, and obviously dramatically lower than mineral oil. These numbers are nice, but what do they equate to? How can you think about it another way? Well, running that facility, it's a 100,000 metric ton oil facility, for 1 year is the equivalent of planting almost 10 million trees. That's a big, big benefit. To make a difference, you need scale. And as I said, we started the company focused exclusively on fuel. And we went to many of the biggest fuel companies in the world. One of our earliest partners was Chevron. And we said, we'll make you this ideal fuel molecule, and we'll do it at $3 a gallon. And they all said, shut up. Don't tell us any of that. Show us that you can do it at scale. That's what we want to see. And Solazyme has spent much of the last 10 years working on developing scale. You're looking at the Moema facility in Brazil on top, which should come online at the end of the year. A partnership on the bottom right with ADM in Clinton, Iowa, and a partnership with a company called Roquette in Letrem, France. And all of these facilities are standard off-the-shelf equipment, which is a critical part of our technology. In fact, if you look on the lower left, you see a Peoria facility, which is a demonstration facility we've been running in for years. That facility ultimately was converted. It was a Pabst Blue Ribbon beer factory at one point. But you can't do it alone. Doing it with partners has been critical. We chose early on to work with the U.S. Navy because they were a company that was going to instill serious discipline in us. And ultimately, our fuel was the baseline fuel that was used to certify advanced low-carbon sustainable biofuels across the Navy's entire fleet, resulting in the RIMPAC exercise last summer, which we think was the largest use of advanced biofuels on the planet. Our fuels were used in all of the ships, planes, and helicopters in that exercise. Also, we were fortunate to be chosen by, and we've been partnered with United Airlines, who flew the first U.S. commercial flight on advanced biofuels with us. And we're partnered with many more folks in the fuel space as well. But as I said, this has enabled us to bring our oils into different products. Many, many products, from food to chemicals to personal care products, soaps, detergents, all the way down to skincare. We actually have a brand called Alginist you can find on shelves in every Sephora in the U.S., in Europe, and it's expanding. But it requires a community of innovators. And we have a lot of partners, not all of them either announced or listed, but some of you are in this room, and I want to say specifically thank you. This is a work in progress. I showed you the Moema facility, the ADM facility, and the Roquette Letrem facility. All of these will be online producing commercial product by the beginning of 2014. As I said, we already have some commercial products available in food and cosmetics, but we will have our largest facilities running by the end of 2014, and we've been very fortunate to be working with some of the most innovative companies in the world to bring these oils to markets. Because one thing I can tell you is if you try to do everything, you will fail at everything. And our perspective is to partner with the best companies in the world who can tell us what consumers really need and what they really want. I think I have time for one quick last story. Early on, we were focused, as I said, very much on biofuel, and we were talking only on biofuel, and we were talking to some of the biodiesel companies about what kind of oil they wanted. And they told us a specific kind of profile that would lead to a biodiesel that would work in very cold temperatures. So we developed an oil that would do that. And after a while, a couple of our scientists looked at that oil and said, well, hey, do you guys realize We've just created an oil with a profile that looks almost identical to olive oil. Well, that was a light bulb. And we took it, we followed the science into nutrition. And as I said, we're partnered with Roquette in nutrition. We also have a joint development agreement for tailored oils with Unilever in nutrition as well. But our oils in nutritional applications can provide dramatic reductions in saturated fat, increase in healthy fatty acids, reductions in inflammatory fatty acids, and much healthier structuring fats for bakery and confectionery applications. Again, it sounds a little bit like a commercial and a little bit like it's too good to be true, but I'm telling you, it's been, really since the beginning, it's been well over 20 years since the idea, and more than 10 years since we founded the company. And as I said, we've made almost every imaginable mistake along the way, but we're at a point where we're really commercializing our technologies broadly. And the next wave of innovation, which includes what we're doing, is up to everybody, and hopefully many of you in this room. And we look forward to working with you to bring these oils out for better products and a much more sustainable set of applications. Thanks so much.